Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. Today I'm going to do a page in my art journal, and I'm going from some Happy Mail. So I received this wonderful package of Happy Mail. There are Art by Marlene faces that are on rice paper, and they're just adorable. There are some beautiful flowers and beads, some feathers, a piece of a jelly print that this person made. This came from Mimi. Thank you so much, Mimi. How fun is it that she gave me this Happy Mail with a note inside and a challenge. She wanted to see how I would use all these elements on an art journal page. So let's get started and see what my creative mind can come up with. I already have some ideas, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to create this in my large Ranger's Delusions art journal, and it's getting pretty fat. It's also getting pretty full, which is great because that means I'll be able to do a flip through soon. And I love to do flip throughs. I love to watch other people's flip throughs. So this is where I'm going to put this layout, is in my large Ranger's Delusions journal. So we have to start with a background. I love this jelly print, so I think I'm going to tear it and apply it with some other papers and then work off of that to start with. Pulled out some scraps of scrapbook papers, magazine, colors and things. This was like cardboard, but it has some neat dots on it. Some tissue paper that has keys, just all kinds of really fun things to put in my background. And I've changed my mind about the jelly print. I think what I'm going to use that for, I'm going to use these two faces. I love these faces. And I think I'm going to make their little shirts and outfits out of the jelly print because it's just too pretty and I want it to show. So that's what I'm going to do, is set that aside and leave that for later when I add my images as a focal. For my background, I want to have some big and bold things because we're going to tone it down and knock it down a little bit, and it'll just show through a little bit. I love doing that. So I'm going to just tear some of these pieces of paper and start laying them out. I really love this by itself the way it is, but nah, I'll tear it. But it's pretty cool. Maybe put that there. And just start tearing and laying them out. And I kind of like to do it semi-balanced. So if something's here, I want to put something of the same pattern over here. This is going to be the roll of 3. And the other little pieces will just kind of be a little bit of a fill in. I love using big bold things like this. It has numbers. I love that. It always looks cool in the background. And I want to be sure I put it somewhere where the girls aren't going to completely cover it. So maybe right here. I like the circles on this. This is kind of nifty, and I think I'll punch out some of the circles with my big punch. Punch out some circles of the circles. Those always look really fun in a background. Let's do a half circle. And let's maybe do another size of circles. It's kind of fun to vary it up. Maybe even one even smaller. A couple little ones. So now I'm going to just use Mod Podge and start applying these little pieces here, there, and everywhere. And you can use matte gel medium to apply your pieces. I like to save my matte gel medium for putting down focals just because it's more expensive. That's just my thing. But you can use whatever you want to apply your papers, your background papers. Let's make sure that's single layer. Yep. And just make sure you get them on there nice and smooth so they don't wrinkle. And just go to town and start applying. I never have a rhyme or reason how I put them. I just start laying them out and sticking them on, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like when I get them all put on the page. This is what I ended up with, putting my little pieces of paper down into my background, and I kind of left space for where the focal girls are going to go because rice paper is a little bit thin, but it's okay that some of it's going to show through. I like that too. And then I'm going to keep working on this background, but first thing I need to do is let it completely dry, and I air dry it. I don't use my heat tool on Mod Podge with the background elements like this because sometimes it tends to make them wrinkle. So I'm going to just be patient and let this dry for a while, and then I'll come back and work on it some more. So I'm laying out my girls, and when I put this one down where she's going to go, I almost love this keys as her outfit. It's kind of looks kind of really nifty. So I'm going to use the jelly print for a different outfit for this girl. And she's going to go over here where the big numbers on this paper is going to show through her hair because rice paper is clear, is almost like see-through when you put it down with your matte gel medium. So I love how that is gonna show up through her hair. So I'm gonna put her right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put them on first before I do any more painting or adding of other things to the background. And with, let me move this aside, with rice paper images like this, you can use a water brush and wet the rice paper. And just like mulberry paper, you can then tear it away. So you get a nice rough edge like this instead of cut with scissors. So I'm going to go around and wet this edge and just pick at it and peel it away so I get a really fun and funky rough edge, so that when I apply this down on the paper, on the book, you're going to see a cool rough finished edge. So here's what they look like with their edges torn out. Love it. Kind of nifty. And the pieces I'm going to save because they're great texture to add to other backgrounds. So I'm going to go ahead and save those and just put them into my bin of scraps. I'm going to apply those faces with TriArt Matte Gel Medium. You can use any brand you want, any kind you want. I just love TriArt. I've tried about every brand. So I'm going to put a thin layer down where this face is going to go. And I'm going to put her in place. And actually that bottom, where her top ends, I'm going to trim with scissors right up to that. So that those keys show. Okay, let's try this again. That's better. And then just smooth it out. And rice paper is kind of nifty because it just really blends so easily. It's like tissue paper, but it has little fibers in it. And it just looks so pretty. It just immediately becomes part of the page. These images are so cute. I love them, Mimi. Thank you for sending them. They're darling. I hadn't seen these before. Art by Marlene is just such a fun company. She makes such unique designs. I'm going to tip it a little bit. So see how as I add my matte gel medium to it, it just blends right in, and now you can see the numbers through her hair and onto her face. Which I'm going to incorporate that in her face as being the side that I do the shadows. That's going to look really good. Okay, now I'm going to let those two images dry. I chose some colors of paint, and how I picked my colors was kind of based on what was in my background pieces that I tore. I really like those colors. And these are paints by Chroma Jo Sonja, and I really like this color scheme together, so that's what I'm going to go with. And what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of paint down on my little palette, which I use an old catalog magazine, and I've dampened a sponge just a little bit. Pick up a little bit of paint, and I'm going to come in here and start dabbing it in. I'm going to go up to and onto those papers, but I don't want to hide them too much because I kind of like them. I like seeing those papers. Normally I would really cover them, but I think on this layout I kind of like them to show, so I'm going to leave them. So I'm going to just dab in some paint here and there. And you can kind of go up. I'm going to go up to the girl. And I'm just going to dab around with the paints, just like that. And it's just going to add some color to the layout. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's going to add some color, and it's going to cover up the white spots, but it's also adding texture and interest because I'm dabbing it with a sponge. You can also drag the sponge across if you want more coverage like that. That's kind of neat too. But I'm going to just play around with these colors and kind of start going over the scrapbooking papers and kind of just go up to my girl images. And while I still have some of this blue paint, since it's the darkest color, I still have some blue paint on my palette. And I've chosen that this right side is going to be the side in shadow. So what I'm going to do is pick up some paint with a brush, just a little square brush. And I'm going to go right up to the images and put some darker paint next to those images. Just kind of brush it in. And then just kind of lightly pull outwards and feather it out so it ends with like a, not a harsh line, it's just feathered. But see how I'm adding some shadow to that side of the neck? And why not shadow it in this gorgeous blue paint instead of wasting the paint? Okay. Oh, I love that. Love it. Let me hold it up closer so you can see how that is along those faces. Love it. I love that dark side on one side. And I'm even doing the same thing along some of the cut edges from my little background pieces that I've added. If this is a shadow side, it's great to just come in here and put a little shadow coming off of those too. Why not? Maybe off of this circle, add a little bit, and just kind of dry brush, pull outwards, and get that little feathery cast. And even along this edge. It's just going to make some depth and some interest, because that's what you want your picture to have, is some interest and some depth. And those papers were different different weights of paper. So some of the scrapbook paper is like maybe 96 pound. This is cardboard right here, so it's thicker. So you've got really fine thin things, you've got thicker things, and that's what's really going to make that depth and really make this an interesting art journal page when it's finished. So when you go to add your next color, you want to make sure that that layer is completely dry. That'll keep you from getting mud on your page. If you were to mix these colors, they might get really muddied up. So let it completely dry and then come in and start adding your next color. And I'm not putting it everywhere. I'm not going to cover the whole page or cover over where I've already put that. I want the next color to be its own, in its own spots. So I'm putting it where there isn't any color, if that makes sense, where there isn't a lot of color. I'm just going in and adding it in. See, like going into some of those blank spaces and putting this pretty color in there. It's a super pretty color, I love it. And I don't want a lot of it, I just want a little, just for a little contrast. Let's put a little up in this corner. Put a touch over here. I want it kind of balanced, so it looks pretty over those keys. Put a little onto this cardboard image here. It goes really pretty with the color on the cardboard. So that's enough, and it looks pretty. I'm going to let that dry. Last color, being it's the lightest color, I'm going to do the same thing I did with this dark one next to the neck. I'm going to go on the other side of the neck and add this color on the other side, because this is going to be the side that would be in the light source. So why not go right up to that neck with this color and blend it out. See? So that's really making a contrast between light and dark. I'm going to do the same thing on this girl over here. Go up to her neck and blend this color out. And then with the rest of the paint, I'm going to do my sponging it in, just in a few places, to get this color into the background. These three colors are so pretty and they look really nice together. Okay, I love it. It's coming together and I really love the colors. And I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to add some more to that background before I knock it back a little bit. So I'm going to use this really cool stencil. This was also in Mimi's Happy Mail at one time. And this is Miriam's Small Art, the skin one that's like 6x6. It's in a really cool stencil. So I'm going to use black and I'm going to add that shape to the background because I really like it. So I'm just using some really black paint. I need to find some spots where I can add this fun shape to it without covering up too many of my interesting pieces that I already have in the back. I'm just using a damp sponge and just a little bit of paint, really nice black, heavy black paint. Great design, I love that. This will just add some more interest into some of these places that are a little bit boring. It'll add that cool pattern and design back there. It's all about layering. Art journaling is layer, layers, layers. The more layers you put, the better it looks. Kind of fun, I like it. And I'm going to put a little bit down here, just a little coming up. Let's see, her outfit's going to be there, so you won't see that. So maybe a little right here. Just a little. And a little over in this corner. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Now I'm going to go add a little bit more excitement to that background. I'm taking another color. It's kind of a darker teal that's kind of in this, maybe a little up here. It's just one more contrasting color. And I'm going to put some down on my palette. And I found household things to make circles. So I've got this little tin that was left over from some food spices. I'm going to put that into the paint, pick up paint around the edges of it, and come in here and make a circle. These things, some of it's going to show, some of it won't. This is just, again, adding another layer of interest. So I'm picking spots that are kind of empty. I'm going to do my rule of 3 and do 3 of those. That size. And then I've got a ribbon container. This was from Christmas Ribbon, and I'm sure we all have those. And what I like to do is take one side off, and I leave it with those cool edges like that. It's just really fun. And then this is your handle. It's the perfect thing to use for making some cool stamped circles. So when you pick up your paint, see how it's going to leave those little patterny things in there. And then let's go in here and stamp in that circle. And it's really, this is textured, so some of it's not going to lay flat and make the full circle, and that's okay too. It looks kind of neat to have partial circles. So this is just adding a little bit more interest. Cool. And then you can even take a bigger thing like this is a plastic lid, like from coffee, and spin that around in your paint and get paint on the edge of that and add a bigger circle. Press it and turn it. Hopefully it'll make, oh, it didn't completely make a circle image because I didn't have enough paint on it. So let's pick up some more paint. Maybe come over here. And look at that. You have a nice big circle on the page. And I'm going to let those dry. So I let that dry. I think there might be a few spots that are a little bit wet in the blue, but that's okay. It'll be interesting. I'm going to take some white gesso, and it's regular gesso, not the smooth gesso. And I'm going to take a brayer, put some on my palette. Let me just slide this up a little so you can see what I'm doing. Put it on my palette, and I'm going to run my brayer through it and get it nice and coated with gesso in a thin layer. It doesn't have to be thick. You don't want it too thick. You want to be able to see through it, but you want it nice and covered. And so now I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to start knocking back just a little bit of this design. And I don't want it everywhere because I like that background. It's really cool, but it's kind of wild and it detracts from my girls. So I'm going to just knock a little bit of it back. And so that is just rolling over some gesso. You don't have to go everywhere, but just a bit. And then pick up some more. And that's too dark for me, so I'm going to go over that a little bit. But I want some of it to show. And some of this bright stuff over here I really love, so I'm not going to cover it. You can pick and choose where you want to apply the gesso. You don't have to do the whole thing. I didn't really want it on her dress, but that's okay. Oh well. I'll bump it up a little bit with some neo colors. So this is just adding another layer, and this layer is the gesso layer, and it is covering up that background a little bit. You can still see it. A lot of people get nervous and freaked out to do this because they think, oh no, I'm going to cover up that background. But I know I want over her head, I'm going to be adding something. So I kind of want to be sure that I cover those areas a little bit. So I have an idea for what I want there. All right. Cool, I really like it. I like the keys showing up there, so I'm not going to cover those anymore. And the gesso, if you use regular gesso that has a little bit of grit in it, it adds a nice texture too, and it's just really pretty. So I know it kind of looks like a crazy mess, but it's going to come together, and I'm going to let that dry, that layer of gesso dry. I'm not done with my background, but now I'm going to shift focus and start working on the faces. And I like Chroma Jo Sonja, their Series 1 paints. I'm using Bisque and ecru, and these make really nice flesh tones, and then a Kaiser pink for some cheeks. So I would just like to put the two colors on my palette and then just start to paint in the face and the neck a little bit, and then start to do a little bit of shading. So what I do first is to take a small brush and apply the light color first. And I'm just gonna brush it in, not too thoughtful. I'm leaving the places that are shadowed, I'm leaving those because they're gonna already look shaded that way. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So this is just to add some skin tone. Come in here and add some to her little face. This rice paper is just so fun to work on. So just a thin layer and it'll cover it, but then like I said, those shadows that are already on the rice paper image already show some of the face in shadow. Same over here, gonna add a little flesh tone, and over here. And I'm just lightly doing it on this side because I kind of like that image behind from the numbers. I like that showing. And now I'm taking a little bit darker tone. I don't think it's dark enough though. Let me see. For a contrasting. Yeah, it's okay. And I'm just coming back in with that little darker color. I'm defining it just a little bit more. but blending it out, you know, just giving those little brush strokes so it kind of feathers it out. Makes it look airbrushed, kind of. Using that darker color on the right side where it's more in shadow. Put a little under her nose. A little under her lips. So it's starting to take shape and giving the faces a little bit more shape. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the pink and just add some cheek color. I'm dry brushing. I'm sure if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll know that I love to dry brush. So my paintbrush is hardly wet at all. And I just pick up a little tiny bit of paint and then just apply my strokes with it dry. And to me, it just, I don't know, it just works. It works and blends out nicely. I just like the dry brush technique, so that's just my thing. I think if you have too much paint on your brush and too much water on your brush is where you have difficulties in getting it to blend nicely. And so if you are struggling with that, try the dry brush technique. Cute. They're starting to really come to life now that it's getting a little bit of pink in there. I like that. It's cute. It's fun. Art journaling is so much fun. It's so relaxing and can take your stress away. It relieves anxiety. It helps for pain management. It's just awesome. So if you haven't art journaled, you should give it a shot because it is fun. Okay, that's cute. I like that so far. For their lips, I'm going to use a fine point Posca pen in light pink. And just come in here and color them in. Leave a little white highlight. The other thing you can do, which is so nice on rice paper, is once this dries, you can come back in with some colored pencil even and add some colors with colored pencil. Oops, that kind of went over the edge. Just rub it out a little bit. And then I'm going to use a brighter pink. This is the, and then I'm going to come back in with a fine point in the regular pink. I'm going to make the top lip a little darker than the bottom. Okay, there are their cute little lips. Same with their eyes. I'm going to use Posca pen. Go around the iris and add some color. I'm going to make this one have green eyes. I'm going to use ivory for the highlight on the top of their nose. Make that little circle on top. And then kind of blend it up. And I'm going to use this mulatto. This is a flesh tone of mulatto. I'm going to come in here and make a little dark spot underneath the tip of the nose to give it more shape. And just a touch around the outside edges. Just to give that nose a little more shape. I'm going to put a little bit in the corner of their eyes. Could even go under here and add a little more cast shadow. It's just playing around with it until you get it the way you like it. For her dress, I'm going to use that piece of paper that she did on her jelly print. So I'm going to just kind of draw a basic shape to start with and cut that out. And I'm going to use matte gel medium to put this into place right here. Actually, no, I'm going to use Mod Podge, and I'm going to just do it the same as I did my background papers. Apply some Mod Podge and a nice even coat. And then apply this image down that I just cut out. And whenever I have paper over the gutter, I kind of just run my paintbrush down it to kind of crease it. Okay, and I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to just take scissors and trim that off of the bottom along the edge. Next, I'm going to take a little 5/8 circle punch, and I'm going to cut out or punch out a bunch of circles out of her jelly plate. And I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I'm going to glue them back onto this paper, and I'm just going to glue the top. Just put a dot, and then the next one is going to overlap the previous one. I'm just putting a dot down and sticking them so they're going to be only attached at the top of them loosely. I think this is going to be really cute. It's just kind of an idea that hit me. And I think that's probably enough to have just 5 of them. And I'm going to let the glue dry. Now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to add more of those little circles, only this time I'm going to put the glue on the back at the top, and I'm going to tuck them up underneath the loose edge. And do the same thing, layer them one over the top, tuck them underneath. So it's going to be tuck in place. Make sure you don't glue down that top one, because I have a thought behind it. There we go. Just make sure I wasn't gluing that down. I think this is going to be super cute. This girl's going to be a fashionista with her little outfit. So I'm just gluing circles underneath circles. And I'm going to go across and now see if you can see that. See how they're layered? I've got 2 rows. I make the second row a little wider, and I'm going to make the third row even wider and do it again. So this is what it looks like. And I love the pattern that it makes from that jelly print. Look at that. All those little circles, just the light and the darks of it. It's just super fun. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors and cut this out. I'm just going to trim around it and trim this whole little design that I created. Trim it out. I'm kind of going underneath them because I want the circles to be what's the shape. And then underneath this edge here that's not tacked down, I can just trim underneath. See how my scissors are under the circles? And you can't, then it's just the circles. Kind of going up behind and underneath. So this is what I end up with. This is going to be a decorative piece on her top. Look, oh my god, it's so cute. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, let's see what that's going to do on her dress. Add total interest to her top. Makes it look very dimensional. How cute, just out of that jelly print. So I'm going to just add some glue to the back, some art glitter glue, and glue it in place. So cute. Okay, and then you can kind of take your finger and kind of curl up the, actually I'm going to take my little paper piercer and lift up those edges and just curl them up a little bit. Just lift and curl to the top row. Oh, that is so cute. So that's what you end up with. It makes a really fun outfit out of that piece of jelly print. And I just cut out another little piece of paper and tucked it up under to make a sleeve on this side. For my next idea, I want to, I'm going to add some cute little quirky bird drawings to the top of their heads, so they each have a quirky bird sitting on their head. So I'm going to just use a pencil and sketch out some cute little quirky birds, and once I get them drawn on here, I'll come back and show you what they look like. So I just used pencil and sketched on some cute little birds on the top of the girls' heads. Kind of hard for you to see, but I'm going to take a Posca pen in black and I'm going to outline them, and then I'm going to start to color them in with. So some cute little simple birds. And now I'm going to just do some coloring in with Posca pen to fill them in. And then I'm going to use those feathers to make their wings and tails and things. I'm going to take some of these cute feathers that she sent, and I'm going to add these feathers to these quirky birds and give them tails and wings, and I'm going to put this cute one on his head. Like he's got a really funky top knot. Like that. So I'm going to play around with these feathers and put them on the birds. So here are my cute birdies. I'm still working on them, but look at their feathers. So they've got feathers on the top of their heads, their wings, their tails. Crazy, quirky birds. Aren't they cute? And then I drew an arm and a hand and a bird over here sitting on the hand. Just cute, just something fun. So now what I'm going to do, I want to knock back a little bit more of this wild background. So I'm going to take a lighter color, and it's kind of a minty color, and put just a little tiny bit on my palette, and I'm going to add matte varnish to it. And you kind of do 2 to 1 is about the mix, which would be 2 parts varnish, 1 part paint. However, the size that you put on your palette of paint, you're going to put twice that much in varnish, like that. And then mix it up, and what it makes is a glaze. So it's going to take that color, that paint color, and it's going to thin it right down with varnish so you can see through it. And then I'm going to take it and come over this background and just kind of brush it over. And you can still see that fun background, but it's going to just tone down the wild colors and the wildness of it. It's a little too wild. So I'm just going to brush a little bit of this minty glaze over it and tone it down just a little bit. I like that you still can see the patterns that you put on there, but it just mellows it out a little bit. You don't have to put it everywhere. You can just put it in a few spots, or you can do the whole thing. It doesn't matter. Totally up to you. I just love the effect that it gives, that it adds just another layer and tones down the wildness, but it still looks really cool. And then I'll hold it up and show you what it looks like closer up. I love glazing. There is a medium that you can buy that's called Glazing Medium, and that works the same. You mix it with paint, whatever color you want your glaze to be, and you do the same thing. But if you already have varnish on hand, varnish works just as well. So I like using varnish. This is going to make those little birds pop a little bit better. They were kind of hiding. Okay, so see how that toned that background down, but still kept the designs. You can still see the circles and the pattern paper and the designs in the background, but it just toned it down one more step. Now for using these yellow flowers, these little sequin type flowers, I think what I'm going to do for that is to take a green and make like a little headband on her head. Give her like a headband. And then I'm going to glue these cute little flowers across her headband. So after I glued on the little flowers, I put the green beads inside the center of them, and I put a row of them at the top of her blouse so it matches her little headband. So that's what I did with the sequins and beads. Next I'm going to take some Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 crayons, and this is raspberry red, and I'm going to go around these circles that I put down on that background, and then just add some color. Little pops of color around the circles and blend them out with my finger. These Neocolors are awesome for adding color to your page. You can just color it on, use your finger, the warmth of your finger to just blend it out, and then see how that just made that circle kind of really pop out. I'm also going to go around that circle with black, but first I want to do it in some color. So I'm going to go around and add color around all the circles that I put down on my background. So there's my raspberry red around my circles. I might not put black, I kind of like them as is, but we'll see. Now I'm going to take some greenish blue and I'm going to go around the image a little bit and just add some greenish blue in here. It's just to brighten up and add some shadows and play around with your Neocolors. All that texture you have in that background picks up the crayons as you just color with it. It's kind of fun to do that, to just color and get pick up the texture from the gesso. So this is just adding in another depth, a little bit of depth with more color. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before and just go around and add some of this color here and there. I'm taking a little bit of vermilion, which is it's a reddish bright orange, and I'm adding little pops of that. And when you wet your finger and rub it, it makes that color really come out. So see how that just, wow, popped. That's what it does. It looks pretty just colored, but then if you wet it and blend it, it gets even brighter. So I just want a few little pops of that orange. Neocolors are the absolute best for that. They're my favorite things for adding color to your page, because they're so vibrant and so bright, so easy to use, so forgiving. Just super pretty. I'm going to add just a little bit more over here. Another way you can use your Neocolor is to take a water brush and tip right off the crayon. So I'm picking up some of that color and I'm going to come in here and shade this dress. So I'm just going to brush a little bit underneath those cute little scallops and add some shadow down the sleeve. And you can do it like, come in on one side and just add a little bit of shadow. Now I'm going to use my black Posca pen to just come in here and add some lines in, like outline her outfit, outline her a little bit. outline her hand. I added the word birds of a feather with Posca pen. And then I've done a little bit of color on the birds to make them stand out a little bit more, my little quirky birds. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a Posca pen that is a chisel point. So it is a PC 8K chisel point. So it's nice fat chisel point in black. And I'm going to do a border around this page. This is a quick and easy way of adding a nice black border. I've shown this in other videos too. And I think I'm going to do it kind of sketchy. Instead of straight, I think I'm going to do it sketchy. I'm going to take some Posca pens and I'm going to do some mark making. So I'm going to just go in the background and add some sketchy circles. And I'm going to do it in several different colors. So I'm going to just play around and do some mark making. And then that should just about finish this layout. So I'll come back and show you when I'm all done. So here's the final page layout, and I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe it showed you some techniques you haven't tried, some products maybe you haven't used, or a different way to use the supplies that you already have. I hope it inspired you to art journal, create something fun today, because as we know, art soothes the heart. And I appreciate the Happy Mail from Mimi. I incorporated her jelly print, the sequins, the beads, the feathers, and the cute girls that were rice paper from Art by Marlene, and a stencil that she sent me. So thank you, Mimi. Hope you enjoyed and that you liked what I did with your cute little things that you sent me. Thank you so much. I love doing this. So if you like to send me little tidbits and you want to see what I'll do with them, feel free to do so, because this is what I'll do, is sit down and create an art journal layout to show you. So thanks, Mimi, and everybody, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day and take care.